Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself and Mike today. Bit of a debate while it's the international break. It's quite a heated debate actually on things like Twitter at the moment as to how this is going to work and why we think that Kudus should be coming into the 11 based on his recent performances. Obviously got that goal against Newcastle. Sloth is here. Hello. There's actually three of us for this video. But yeah, we're just saying about Kudus, how we're going to fit him into that XI because someone's got to come out, and the way the dynamics of the team is set up is very difficult to pick a player. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you because we spoke about this actually on the Newcastle review stream as well. So, if Kudus is coming in, the first question is, what position is he going to play for you guys?
So, I don't think it can be as clear cut as he comes in, one person goes out, and that is how it is. I personally think he does come into the team, and he is now a mainstay alongside Bowen, Paqueta, Alvarez, Zuma, probably Areola. I think they're probably and Emerson. I think they're probably our most uninterchangeable players in this current time when we talk about the Premier League. And I think that he comes in as, one of those mainstay players. And I think it then comes down to a matter of when we talk about who does he replace, I think it's a question of who do we operate against, who we're playing against as to at this point in time. And one of them is in very good form, which is obviously going to infuriate people when you say that, well, he should be the one sacrificed. It is Souček and it is Antonio. For me, they're the only two. And reason being is Ward-Prowse. I know I didn't say he was one of the ones that isn't interchangeable. I think he probably is one of those ones who isn't as well. Is because Ward-Prowse is our set piece go-to player.
Well, he's not going to be taken out just because of
there was such a hard push from Moyes over the last 2 years to bring in Ward-Prowse. I don't think he's one of those players. So I think if you look at it realistically, it is only Souček and Antonio. And so I think you have to look at a game-by-game basis as to which one of those two starts.
Yeah.
And then Kudus then takes the position. I think as much as I don't necessarily like Paqueta playing left wing, what I do love is that that connection he has with Emerson is so good that I think if you can get Kudus playing in that central midfield role and ask him to essentially roam like he did in that final 15, 20 minutes against Newcastle, you'll have a player who is going to drift into those spaces where maybe Paqueta should be as the winger. And also,
how would you kind of fit that in then? We've got obviously the big debate in a minute is going to be who we're going to drop. But when you're bringing Kudus in, maybe Sloth, one for you, if he's going to be playing centrally, how do you feel about Paqueta going out on the left? Because we've seen it in a few games now, but we know he's not a natural winger, and he's so much better playing centrally and has a lot more of an impact on a game from central positions. So, how do you kind of assess it? Would you like to push Paqueta out wide to accommodate Kudus?
I think the key thing with Paqueta is that he's good enough to just have an impact wherever he is. Like, it's not a case of he needs to sit out on the touchline and try and beat a man. The cliche sort of winger is. He is good enough to have an impact, drift inside, and he will work hard enough to come back and make a tackle if he needs to. So, I mean, you could argue that it does kind of counter the idea of having that width. However, we've got something that we haven't had for a good 5 years, because Cresswell's form has dipped dramatically, and also I would argue his athleticism has dipped dramatically from the fantastic season that he had 5 seasons ago now. We've got someone who's willing to do the runs up and down the left side continuously for the 90 minutes. And that's massive. It does allow someone like Paqueta to tuck inside more, or it allows your winger to do that when you have the left back covering you. So I think while it may drop some natural depth, I don't think there's an issue with him playing out wide. I think he's good enough to counter that and have, as I said, those impacts on games that he seems to be able to have at the moment.
Yeah. Would you guys rather see, I know we haven't really spoke about it, but Kudus going out wide instead of Paqueta? Who would you rather see? Because we've already seen from those, 2 or 3 games that Kudus has played, it's very clear that his best position is finding those pockets of space in the middle. And, when he played out on the right in our Europa League group stage game, didn't have the same impact. Although he did score 2 goals, he just didn't have that same impact that we've seen him have. So it's either, if we're going to try and keep Paqueta and Kudus in the same team, and we're going to take out someone like Souček or Antonio, is there an argument that maybe Kudus could go out wide, or would you rather see Paqueta do that?
So how I see it is, any manager worth their salt should be able to really look at the game and go, starting positions are almost arbitrary now in football. And if you have 3 players of the intelligence of Bowen, of Paqueta, of Kudus, who understand where space is and how best to utilize space in which to hurt the opposition, between those 3, you should be able to utilize them in a way that I need you to go and explore space. At the moment, we're scoring goals from everywhere. Antonio hasn't been, as he had been in previous years, had to be the one to really kind of get those goals. We've got players that are kind of pulling in goals from everywhere. And also if you can have a dynamic front 3, where if you can turn around to the likes of Bowen, Paqueta and Kudus, I want you 3 to be free. I need you to pull that defense around, move into positions to find spaces, find pockets to hit the ball. And they're intelligent enough to know if one drops and another one goes forward. We've seen Paqueta actually doing a decent role in that centre forward position. And we've seen Kudus picking up the ball in these little pockets of space. Also means if you are, say, dropping Antonio and you're playing Souček, that all of a sudden then you say to Souček, as well, if one of those is dropping in, you move forward into that centre forward position. You get yourself into the box. You get ahead, because that's where we've seen Souček be brilliant. When those moments in 2 seasons ago, it would be 2 seasons now, where Antonio was kind of dropping off slightly, and then he had Lingard going ahead of him, which you could argue could be a Kudus. And then you had Souček then providing that extra kind of that third run and acting as that kind of, being an auxiliary centre forward in some cases, was getting some great shots, like the Aston Villa game, for example. The goal he scored against Villa Park 2 seasons back is a prime example. If you can have a dynamic front 3 that is consistently moving and rotating, you're also then utilising your fullbacks to maintain the width.
I guess the only thing then is, like, if you're playing Paqueta, say, as the CF with Kudus in behind, you've got Bowen on the right, who then goes out to the left, because we don't really have other than Ben Rama. But
this is the point. You have Emerson for that. We have the safety net. Emerson can push forward. Aged can come across to the left. Zuma can spread further out to the right. As we've seen with Alvarez, can drop into that kind of defense.
Yeah, but who plays left wing, Mike, in that situation?
But that's the point. Formations are arbitrary.
So who's the 4? Who's the 4 players in that attack?
It's 5. Essentially, you play 5 in attack. When you watch a lot of football teams, they have a front 5. And that front 5 is made up of their 2 fullbacks, of their 2 wingers who are playing inside, and then you have a centre forward. You have one player. You essentially play a 5 up top, almost sometimes a 2 to 3 in defence, depending on how your build-up is. And then you have 2 kind of, as either a double pivot, or you have 3 in midfield that are looking in to pull the strings and to kind of rotate the ball out wide, receive it inside, and then kind of play it forward and so on. But you essentially, we get very hung up on the ideas of, I have to have a left winger. That's not strictly true. As long as you can maintain width and you're also willing to take risk, the left winger is almost arbitrary, because you can push your fullback up high if you're willing to be aggressive, and then you bring other players in centrally. Because let's face it, where's Kudus going to score, or Paqueta or Bowen going to score more goals? It ain't going to be from the wings. And if they're natural finishers, we need them to be further inside or inside that kind of 18-yard area. Therefore, we need to have aggressive fullbacks, or we need to slightly invert our midfield. That means...
But then, say from a defensive point of view, how would we set up? Say, a team has a goal kick or whatever, and we're set up in our defensive shape. How does that work? Because you have Paqueta, you have Kudus in the middle, behind Paqueta, you have Bowen on the right. Then you're trying to fit Ward-Prowse, Souček, Alvarez into that. Like, how does that then set up defensively? Do you have to push? You would then end up pushing out Kudus or Paqueta out wide.
Yeah, I think again,
defensive.
If you hark back to Alex Ferguson, who was the king of a 4-4-2, then went to 4-3-3 when he realised what a play he had in Ronaldo. But he also had Rooney, he had Tevez. But it was also came to the point of you start to then take it becomes situational, and it becomes about where are you positioned at that particular time, and that's where you are for that particular situation. And if there is a moment where you can rotate to get into your preferred defensive lineup, then that's what you do. Because I think personally, Moyes would prefer to have Paqueta become wide left than he would say Kudus.
Yeah,
and again, obviously Bowen will always stay on that right hand side. I know he's been trying to play him as centre forward and saying that he sees him potentially as a centre forward going forward. But I think, as we've discussed before, and I've been pretty vocal about it as I have, that when he's put centrally as an actual starting point, his movement isn't as good, and he doesn't kind of exploit space in behind as well as he does when he's coming in doing
he likes
an
the out to in run from the wide areas, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's where Bowen is far more potent, and that's why I would say you arguably tell Bowen to remain as he is.
Yeah.
And it's then about asking Paqueta and Kudus to use their football intelligence, which is very high IQ between the two of them, to then start to rotate and manage those spaces.
So I know, I know what we're saying is going to be like situational as to who you take out. But, if I had to, ask you guys right now, if Kudus is to come into that XI, who comes out? What name are you saying? Is it because we've said there's Antonio or there's Souček? There's two ways of going about it. Who are you guys taking out for the next game?
I'll let Sloth go first.
So for me, it's Antonio, and this isn't a performance based decision in terms of he's been fantastic for us this season, and he is key to how we play. However, I do think Kudus can do that. One of my key reasons for it is because I think Kudus has earned a chance to start, but I also think that our midfield's been fantastic. That's been one of the best things we've seen this season, and the performances of all those players have been really high and really consistent. Now, look, Antonio is creating chances and he is scoring goals. However, I do think that we've got a situation where we only now have two players who can play in a similar style, Antonio and Kudus, who can perform that role. Ings is completely inconsequential in terms of how we play, because he just does not fit that system.
Yeah.
So one of the main reasons I would say you drop Antonio for Kudus is because he can do that role, and you can bring Antonio on as an impact substitution. So for me, I think you drop Antonio. It's not a critical decision in terms of his performances have dropped massively. It's just I think that Kudus has had the chance to start, and you then utilize the fact that you have Antonio off the bench. And look, if Kudus struggles, you can change it. You can make the decision to put Antonio on after 65 minutes, let him show you why you're wrong. But the overriding arc in this for me is the attitude going to be there from a team point of view. I think if you drop either player in Souček and Antonio, it's very harsh on them. And I think we've seen from previous seasons that Souček's attitude is very, very good. He's not going to let his performances change that. He had an extremely tough season last season, and he kept plugging away. And I think he's earned the right to stay in that starting lineup for now. And, we're also missing the fact that if you want to play two forwards, or you want to play Kudus in behind Antonio, you can do that. It's just a case of making sure that you actually rotate two players who are the only ones who can play the way that you want to play, because Ings can't. And hopefully this isn't again, it's not meant in a mean way, but hopefully
he just doesn't play, and he just can't fit that system. We've seen that Ings isn't that type of player. He can't play the role that Moyes needs him to. So I get your point. Mike, what about you? Would you be on the same vibe as taking Antonio out?
Yeah, I said the other day that I think you take it game by game. So, for example, next game is Everton. I personally think I would probably take Antonio out because of...
I think it's Aston Villa next away.
Sorry, I'm thinking of a home game. Sorry, it probably is Villa. But again, if you're playing against Villa, for instance, Pau Torres isn't great in the air. So you could probably put Paqueta on him. You could probably put Antonio on. If you put Antonio on Pau Torres is not having a good day. He's a very elegant player, but he doesn't face a player like Antonio in La Liga. And having watched Pau Torres, when he's under the cosh aerially, he can struggle and that is the weakest part of his game. He's a very solid player. However, he's not great at marshalling in defence when it comes to those kind of aerial pieces, which Antonio could probably have a fair game against him. And also his physicality could be something, say, a Torres could struggle with. And when you look at arguably then Villa's midfield, having, say, Kudus playing in there with Alvarez and Ward-Prowse is far more dynamic, far more energy, and probably would be better at hustling and harrying, or even putting obviously Paqueta in there, depending on how he wants to play it. So I kind of look at it as one player just does not come out. I think it has to be rotation. It's something that we haven't done and missed necessarily enough over recent years. I think certain players are mainstays. I do feel now, whilst Antonio hasn't played badly, he's done well in a fair few of the games, I do feel that we are maybe at that kind of changing of the guard time. And whilst he's very integral to what Moyes wants to do, there are other players that are starting to show that actually they can, when Antonio goes off, there are other players who have been performing in the same way, like the way Paqueta has held up possession in games recently, and when he's gone centre forward, where Kudus has demonstrated his ability to hold off, the opposition, to turn quickly and to drive with the ball. It's starting to show that maybe our reliance on what Antonio does with holding up a defender can actually be augmented slightly. And by bringing in maybe a little bit more movement and dynamism, actually we may create more for ourselves. And we've been very good in open play this season, which is something that you can't always say has been our case, apart from when we're in transition. This year, it's been far more outside of transition, where actually we've been really effective in the final third, and we've been very good in the goals we've scored. They've actually been very aesthetically pleasing goals, which has been great to kind of see.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really tough. Like you were saying, Slough, to take either of those out of the team at the moment is harsh because of how well the team has performed. But, Kudus has so much talent. He just can't be used as a last 15, 20-minute player because, we've brought him in for this big fee, a lot of expectation around what he can do. And he deserves to be playing. And that's nothing, it's not harsh on Antonio or Souček. It's just the way it is sometimes, that the best players have to play for you. But for me, I would like to see Kudus play in the number 10 role behind Antonio and just see what that does. Because, Villa away is an example. They're going to play a very high line. Those balls over the top for players like Antonio to run in the channels. It creates a lot of space for players like Kudus to go into that central area and, pick up those pockets, which he likes to do. And you've got, if you're going to play Paqueta out on the left in that situation, he's going to drift inside. And, we saw it in the Europa League against Freiburg. Paqueta did excellent work on the wing and just played a perfect through ball to Bowen. So, and even against Newcastle, he played a great through ball for Emerson from a wide area. So, yes, Paqueta can impact the game playing in that position. Like you said, Mike, it's not like a set in stone. He has to play out left wide on the touchline like Bowen might do. It's completely different. He can come in and influence the game. But for me, I like a lot of Souček's goals. We saw it in the Newcastle game. It's arriving late in the box. It's finding that timing. For me, Kudus can do that anyway. The only thing you're taking away from, taking Souček out is that aerial threat, from set pieces. And obviously from a defensive point of view as well, he's a bit more solid. But I think Kudus would be really good in that midfield. And I would just like to see Antonio having someone like that to run off of him again, just to see what impact that has on Antonio, because for a lot of this season, he's been very isolated due to the way we're playing and the teams we've played. So for me, I would probably take out Souček and bring in Kudus into that midfield. And, if it's not working, we've then got, Souček to come off the bench for set pieces or to rough things up. We've always got that option. So it's a tough one.
I don't disagree with you at all in what you're saying. I think for me, the crux, the most important part of it comes down to keeping the squad fit for the rest of the season. And, if we were to play both Kudus and Antonio, and Antonio's hamstring goes, say Kudus picks up a knock, then we're down to one forward who suits our system. And it's just like, you're going to be watching Danny Ings again in a system that doesn't suit him. And I just think that.
And Mohammed talks about how he's a great lad, but
yeah,
we're ready.
Yeah, but, and that's what is frustrating me this season, is that, you know, we should be looking at this and going, you know, Kudus can play that 10, and he can be the player to run past Antonio and link up with him. However, I just don't have any faith at the moment that instead of Ings, we're going to see Mubama, because I think that would be a really exciting prospect to have him come on.
Let's face it, he's probably our most Moyes player, and also you have a young, malleable player. Surely this is the time to be not just driving into him on the training field, what you want from him, but also getting him on the pitch to actually experience the level that he needs to be at, and to make, you know, kind of mold him into the successor to Antonio. It's just, for me, it's slightly beggars belief that, and again, it's no disrespect to Ings, but it just doesn't fit. And I think we saw that in the Euro game when he brought on Ings, he also brought on Mabama. I think it just, that to me told me, for instance, that he doesn't trust either to play as a centre forward on their own. And the only reason that they both came on is because it's, well, I need to make subs and I want to make a sub up front. However, I can't trust either of you to play the role that I need you to. So I need you both together, because together you essentially conform to the player I want up top. But to go back to this Kudus thing, ultimately, this is the best headache we could ever ask for, because we now have the ability to rest Antonio and to say in the last 30, 40 minutes, if we want to, just go and empty the tank. How many times have we seen Antonio look tired after 30 minutes and then we're waiting for him to kind of get himself back and then have his last week? But to literally be able to turn around to Antonio and be able to now say, I just need you to go on and empty your tank. Just go in and just hell for leather on everything, chase everything down. I just need you to play at maximum velocity for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, however long he's brought on. Or to have Souček come on, I need you to get in there, sit alongside Alvarez, and I need you to help us see out this game. I need you to get your head on everything, to block anything around our area. Yeah. And if you see an opportunity to get forward, to kind of nail this game, you get up there and you make it.
That's the main point, isn't it? We've now got the good options. You know, it's not a bad situation to be in, you know, this debate and, you know, trying to figure out how we can play, because we've got so many different ways now. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you would do if Kudus was to come into the team for the next match. Who's coming out in that XI for you? Leave a comment down below. And yeah, I'm sure the striker, there's a lot of rumors at the moment going around about striker options as well for the January transfer window. So we'll be producing videos on that soon come. And yeah, thank you for watching the video today. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And lads, until next time,
come on, you irons.